Alright guys, time to grab here back again today. Haven't enjoyed your day so far, and today we're going to talk about the potential of the Seattle Surge. Yesterday the CDL came out with a video, a post-Rostermania video of Gunless, Octane and Pristini discussing this new Seattle Surge lineup. Very interesting one, quite frankly, because as we're going to look at over the coming minutes here, Gunless, well, Octane was not keen to play with Gunless, let's just say, at the start of the Modern Warfare season. If it hadn't been for a team potentially falling through on that Seattle Surge, that may not have even happened. Now we're looking at a situation where they are teaming together for the new season, potentially one of the deadliest AR flex combos in the entire game, and then you've got the discussion of, well, Gunless's teams tend to fall apart in the middle towards the end of the season, with Looney, with Pristini on the team. Can that come together, right? And it's an interesting U-turn really from Octane, that he's gone from, well, not too long ago not wanting to team with Gunless at all, to now being very happy to get him along his side. There's also the discussion around what Gunless has to say about him being really pissed off with this situation, and well, as it's transpired the last few months, potentially towards, you know, some of his old Huntsmen teammates. We'll talk about that in the coming minutes here. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for doing that. Before we get into the Gunless stuff, at least we went out with a bang, it says Waskin, after our lineman brings out his player card for his top 16 placing in the Breaking Point GG top 20 players of 2020. Kind of saying that, well, maybe he's not even on Paris, right? And we had this discussion as to, well, if there's anywhere that Waskin's going to go, it's probably going to have to be the Paris Legion. Now he's saying this makes it seem less likely that actually may come true. So that's kind of unfortunate. We also had this yesterday as well. So Moscow Hardpoint, a random pub match, happened to be Rocker versus TJ Slacks, Aches, Saints and Methods. Found each other playing each other. That was pretty entertaining as well. Attached up 62 for the W, Rocker up 2-0. You like that 10 streak to close it out. So yeah, thought this was pretty entertaining. But 2 months ago-ish, Seattle Surge announced the following: Enable, Apathy, Proto, Slacked, Panda and Teddy Rex all gone from the organisation. Karma, of course, retired in the middle of the season as well. So, you know, obviously shaking up their roster, deciding to build around Octane. And the CDL brought out this video yesterday, and well, we'll have a look at a couple of clips from this one. Gunless mentions right at the start that he's pretty pissed off with this situation, right? And this really does harken back to the, well, a few months ago, back in May, when he did get dropped. He was saying that no one on his team had the balls to tell him he was dropped. He effectively heard from other professional players in the community that he was no longer going to be on that team, right? And they had a few third, fourth place finishes. Wasn't the best couple of runs they had on the Chicago Huntsmen after winning that LAN event right back at the start of the season at London when we were still on LAN. But, you know, since then things kind of fell through, and maybe Gunless was kind of frustrated, as Arcites seemed to be towards the end of the season, with scrims being streamed and all this. Like, maybe he didn't feel like people were going 100%, and that's the thing with Gunless, right? If you're not going 100%, you're probably going to get a pretty annoyed Gunless on your team, right? And well, of course, the last several seasons have seen how his teams tend to fall apart towards the end of the season when they start to plateau off in terms of their performance level. So Gunless seems very frustrated here that he's been sitting on the bench for the last, like, you know, 6 months or whatever, and is finally now getting an opportunity back onto the starting lineup. So we'll look at a couple of clips here in a second. Seems to be pretty frustrated, quite frankly, with his old Huntsman teammates, to the degree that he got benched in the middle of the season. Could have potentially, well, he was linked to other organizations, but seems like they didn't want to pick him up, and now he gets this opportunity on Seattle. And well, it's certainly a very interesting one, given the conflict that has been between Gunless and Octane in the past, with them, well, Octane certainly not wanting to team with Gunless. As we'll look at over the coming minutes, I'll roll a couple of clips.
I've been preparing for 6 to 8 months. I am, excuse my French, I am pissed off. I don't know how I benched myself. I didn't even know I was benched until today. Nobody wanted to say a word to me. Ain't that sad? The only reason I learned that everything was happening was from fucking literally other people.
Are you gonna get lazy?
None of my teammates wanted to say a word to me on what was happening to me. They just wanted to, they basically just...
And I think there was a time where there was a team that was happening on Seattle, which was like almost like, you know, pushed you like actually going to happen. And then something happened and fell through, and like we...
Do you remember what team that was?
It was Enable, Octane, Envoy, Alec, and no, Josiah.
Oh, Josiah, yeah.
We weren't gonna, I wasn't gonna be on Seattle, and that was gonna be the team. I think Octane said that he didn't want to play with me purely for that reason of like of how I am, and like, you know, very vocal. And I was just sitting there. I was like, well, I don't know, like, what do you want from me? Like, do what you want. Like, I told him that. I said, I'm really interested in playing the feud and everything like that. I really want to, but do whatever you want. Like, I'm not gonna hold you back. Like, you just came off of like a stellar performance, like 2 event wins back to back, 2 of the biggest event wins. Do what you want. I want you to be in the best situation possible and get the most amount of money, like, of your situation. going forward, something happened, fell through, and then Matt contacted Alec, and then kind of like everything kind of like shaped up from there.
Pierce, he has a reputation that precedes him for sure.
When I'm out of game, I have Pierce has to reap all the repercussions because Gunless was sitting there literally going ruthlessly at people because they weren't giving their 100%. And I'm just like, okay, well, they think I'm an now.
I'm excited to play with him because I think that there's a system around him, and Pierce and Preston are very, very close friends.
So on the 23rd of September, Seattle Surge confirmed their roster with Octane, Looney, Pristini, and Gunless. And it's an interesting squad for a number of reasons, right? You've got Looney and Pristini, who on paper, maybe they're not going to match up so well with some of the SMG, SMG duos in the game. They certainly feel confident that they will be able to do so. Very interesting video, that one from the CDL. I'll leave for you guys linked down below if you guys would like to check it out. But the other side of the story is, of course, Octane and Gunless teaming together on this squad. And as well was talked about a little bit later on in the Eavesdrop podcast, a clip that I didn't exactly share with you guys, but there was a rumoured squad, which was, it was meant to be Octane and Nable as the duo coming over from 100 Thieves. Then you had Envoy and Arcetes, and then Slacked. That was meant to be the Seattle Surge squad. And if that had have been the case, Gunless was suggesting that he might not have even got on a team, right? But the fact that that fell through, for whatever reason, meant that Arcetes and Envoy ended up on the Chicago Huntsmen, and then Gunless was able to join them, right? And actually had his opportunity at the start of the the Modern Warfare season, which he may have not got otherwise, and he may have been on a bench. And part of the reason for that would have been that Octane didn't want to play with him, right? Like maybe if Octane had wanted to play with him, he could have been on that squad. So it's very interesting to me that Octane has made this U-turn, I suppose. Obviously, with a tragic season like Modern Warfare, probably he's going to take any opportunity he can possibly get to get a guy as talented as Gunless on his team. And now Gunless is playing with Pristini, who he's played with and had success with for a long time, and he's great friends with, of course. And also Looney, who, once again, had even more success with, right? And not only has played with Octane in the past, but also has got great things out of Gunless in previous titles. So definitely the team chemistry makes sense. And if there's a couple of players on the team which Octane would be happy to have alongside Gunless, then certainly it seems to me like Pristini and Looney are probably going to be those guys to keep him in check, I suppose. But even in that video, it didn't seem like Octane was super confident that, this isn't going to go haywire in the middle of the season, as it has done with Gunless's organizations over time. And I'm very intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think the chances are that this team once again falls through in the middle of the season, right? We don't know who their substitute is going to be in terms of pure slaying power. Octane definitely believes that him and Gunless can pick up any slack or whatever that Pristini and Looney might leave on the map. And it's going to be very intriguing to see how this new game plays, right? Because in the previous few titles, we've definitely seen that a fast-paced, slaying, aggressive SMG line is what you need. And can Looney and Pristini provide that? Maybe they can, right? Maybe in a slower pace, boots on the ground title, that if it plays somewhat like World War II, they can certainly be a solid duo. But if things start to fall off and they don't win events and they start falling short, are chemistry issues going to rear their ugly heads, right? Because I imagine that's going to be the case, right, frankly. We saw in the World War II days with the Rise Nation squad, when they're winning events, everything was, fine and swimmingly, right? Then they go to the World Championships, they come top 16, not the best results, and immediately they break up. And Looney was saying in the most recent Bryce cast as well, that he was, he doesn't think they should have broken up. They should have stuck into Modern Warfare, got someone else onto the team and saw what happened from there, or stuck into Black Ops 4, sorry, and saw what else happened from there. But, the fact that they lost that one event in a difficult fashion meant that team of Slasher, TJ, Gunless and Looney decided to break up, right? And as soon as they start falling off and as soon as they start taking L's and not winning events, that's when the chemistry issues really come into play. We've seen this with a number of teams over the years. The Optic Gaming Dynasty especially, there was a discussion at the time that those guys were getting frustrated with each other and it was only winning events that was keeping them together, right? And if Surge don't win events, is it more likely that we get some situations with Gunless where, the team chemistry starts to fall apart? I wouldn't say that's out of the question. This then is Gunless's record, I suppose, over his career, starting in Black Ops 3, then we go into Infinite Warfare, became immediately the best player in the game pretty much after this Atlanta event, and then as you can see, a couple of events down the line with the United, they finished top 6 of the Stage 1 playoffs, and then Gunless decides enough's enough, he's going to leave the team, a decision he certainly regrets, and Pristini, he's surprised, frankly, that Pristini and Arcetes actually forgive him for this one, but he goes into FaZe Clan, they don't have the greatest result, they come 5th, 6th, then he goes into Echo Fox, gets his way onto Rise Nation, wins a few events, this was his best season, no doubt about that, he was a top 2 player in the game the entire season long, just behind Kenny. Rise Nation had a pretty poor regular season in Stage 2, but they bounced back at the playoffs, and then as we said, fall short at the World Championship. They lost to TK in Winners Round 1, and then lost to Luminosity Gaming. And interestingly, of course, then Gunless went on to join Luminosity the next year. He joins Fort Worth, and then, within a couple of months, as you can see, things fall apart once again. Yes, you can say this Fort Worth event was something of a fluke, given the classic it was the Rampart there, but at the same time, Gunless had like like a 1.28 or something ridiculous at this event. And within a couple of events time, Luminosity were absolutely like shambolic, right? We saw Gunless like going to EDM concerts and stuff for the weekends, and then not turning up to practice until like the very day of their Pro League matches. They ended up deciding to bench Gunless off the Luminosity Gaming squad, and he goes onto the bench. He gets picked up by Envy, because Envy were doing some crazy roster shuffles, with Hook wanting to leave to Splice. It was a pretty chaotic time, but as you can see, a lot of these rosters, Gunless is not staying on these teams for a particularly long period of time, right? And then we see it once again with the Chicago Huntsmen. They play a couple of, this is only the LAN event, so you just keep in mind, but you know, they win London, they come 3rd, 4th Atlanta, I think they come 3rd, 4th at a couple of other events, and then Gunless is dropped off the team, right? And you tend to see that what Gunless's teams do is they win an event early season. As you can see, February, March time, they tend to win something. We've seen it in Infinite Warfare in February, we've seen it in March in World War II, we've seen it once again in March in Black Ops 4, and then we saw it once again in February in Modern Warfare. But soon after that, things tend to fall off drastically, and the only time they didn't was in World War II when he had Looney at his side, right? So maybe that's something we see play out going forwards once again, but it is to me something of a concern that with all these other great organizations and great rosters, like Atlanta FaZe, like Dallas Empire, like Chicago Huntsmen, like the Minnesota Rocker, that have all been confirmed so far, Toronto Ultra, Los Angeles Guerrillas, Subliners are pretty much confirmed as well. A number of squads have locked in their 4 versus 4 teams. Seems to me it's going to be very difficult for Seattle Surge to consistently win events, and if they do manage to win one, I'd be very impressed. And if they start falling short, 3rd, 4th, you know, top 6s and stuff like this, that's probably when the team chemistry starts to rear its ugly head, and maybe what Octane feared would happen may happen with this team a few months down the line. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for making it this far. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.